1989, Tokyo, Japan. The Nikkei hits a record high and 8 of the world's 10 largest companies are Japanese.
What? 8 of the top 10 companies are Japanese? 1989 must have been like pretty great for Japan, I guess.
Japan is dominating and America is terrified.
Wait a second. What was that 1 or 2 US companies? IBM and ExxonMobil. Okay. Sorry. So NTT. Sorry for the fucking noise from the dogs.
Japanese. Japan is dominating and America is terrified. Japan's GDP per capita is 10% higher than America's. The Rockefeller Center, an American icon, is owned by the Japanese. And movies like Blade Runner imagine a future ruled by the Japanese. It felt like the rising sun would never set.
The Center was owned by Japanese.
American icon, and 10% higher than America's. The Japanese, higher than America's. The Rockefeller Center, an American icon, is owned by the Japanese. And movies like Blade Runner imagine a future ruled by the Japanese. It felt like the rising sun would never set. Or so it seemed. In 1990, the Nikkei dropped 38%.
What is Nikkei?
And lost $2 trillion of market value.
Is that like a Japanese company? Okay.
And even now, in 2024, Japan's wages have yet to recover to levels seen during the economic miracle. So what went wrong? This is Japan, the setting of the rising sun.
I just love YouTube for this very fucking reason, you know? Somebody will just start fucking investigation or a big piece. They'll just delve into what seems to be like a tiny topic, but they'll do so much investigation. They'll just go in deep, you know, research. That's what I like about YouTube.
To understand Japan's economic miracle, we need to go back to the late 40s. Following its surrender, Japan became partially occupied by the US government, and its economy entered a recession not long after. The country was in shambles. Its factories were destroyed, much of its labor force was dead, and trade relations frayed. The US was deeply worried that Japan, like China, would fall into communist.
Oh, this is okay. They're talking about the post-war Japan. Okay, this is after US. So the US are so hypocrites, you know, US people. They're the ones who bombed the Japan, and then they started worrying. The fuck is that? You keep bombing them and then keep worrying about them. Then fucking
labor force was dead and trade relations frayed. The US was deeply worried that Japan, like China, would fall into communist arms. To prevent this, they initiated aggressive economic reforms. They dismantled.
Yeah, one thing US people don't want is communist. They hate communist like more than oil hates water, you know? They just fucking hate communists.
Dismantled the Zaibatsu system, which concentrated wealth and power among a few families. They reformed land ownership laws, giving ordinary Japanese citizens a stake in the economy. And most importantly, they turned Japan into an export powerhouse, first by supporting the Korean War effort, then by fueling industrialization with low-interest loans. The results were incredible. From 1953 to 57, exports of Japanese manufactured goods increased by 143%.
So US helped Japan.
Compare this to the United States at 51% and the United Kingdom at 31%. But Japan was just getting started. In 1959, low-cost textiles still dominated Japanese exports, with much of this heading to unstable and poor Asian markets. Recognizing this, the Ministry of Trade and Industry launched a new industrial policy, pushing Japan towards high-tech, high-quality manufacturing and stronger trade partners. This marked
Yeah, I don't know why India is still behind. I think this is one of the reasons. We are just happy the way that it is. Like, we're just happy to export like low quality stuff. I mean, not low quality, but low technology stuff. Like, even we are still doing that textile export thing. Maybe the pharmaceuticals, that's a bit a complicated one, but yeah, India never came to delve into that high technology thing, which no country can. For example, if like US, if India starts exporting high technology items, like for example new process or new gadget that it's difficult for other people to replicate, other countries to replicate. Like if India has that, if Indian companies have that IP or patent, like high-tech machinery, for example, it's very difficult for other countries to copy, because right now what's happening is India is just exporting, like for example, the textiles and everything, and they just keep on hoping that our cheap labor is going to somehow make us the market leaders, so that we can we can bid for lower price because we have that cheaper labor. But always it's a bad idea, I believe, because what can happen, anytime the other country might come in and they can just swoop up these ones, because that's what's happening currently. See, the Bangladesh started with this, because their government started subsidizing them with low interest loans, so that they can capture the market, the textile market. Then again, Vietnam came in and swoop in, and they just took away their market share now with the low interest loans. So bidding for a lower price with low technology items won't, is not a good future proof plan, at least in my opinion. India should invest. They should levy less tax, or maybe encourage with low interest loans to technology companies, which can help put India in a map up there with better economies, at least. Right now India just has skilled labor at cheap price. That is the only selling point India has. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't India have higher earning skilled labor? Why not?
Marked the beginning of Japan's manufacturing renaissance. Supported by foreign direct investment and a strengthening economy, Japan invested heavily in manufacturing. Given much of their industrial base was destroyed during World War II, they had to start from scratch, importing world-class technologies to create the most advanced manufacturing footprint in the world. By 1965, Japan had a trade surplus, and by 1970, the country had grown exports by 380%, becoming the fifth largest economy on Earth, growing GDP fivefold and eclipsing China, France, the UK.
What the fuck? Yeah, this is what happens, Japanese people are by far the most, disciplined people on the planet, right? If they set their mind to it, they'll just keep on working and working and working and working. Just don't care about other things. They are good at disciplined, workflow. That's why I think it would take, other countries won't really think about, they might have plans, but they won't be this aggressive, right? And even if the country is aggressive, the workforce might not be that aggressive. But Japan is different, They're just so disciplined, and if they put their mind to it, they can achieve like these sort of things. That's such a short periods of time.
And West Germany. Japan's economy showed no signs of stopping, and
I believe India is also has that sort of mentality. So India can actually learn from this. That's what I feel.
and continued to grow at an average rate of 5% a year for nearly 15 years. The key driver for this was exports. If Japan made it, the world bought it. This helped Japan become extremely wealthy, and Japanese citizens started getting a taste of the finer things in life. In 1978, Louis Vuitton entered Tokyo's Ginza district and quickly became one of their best performing stores. Hermes followed suit in 1979, and by the 80s, Prada and other luxury giants were firmly.
Just imagine luxury items doing well in India. Yeah, they might do well under like tiny sort of wealthy people, but just imagine India having such a throwaway wealth, money to spend on luxury items. Usually more than half of the country is just struggling to keep their ends meet. Nowadays the people are coming from lower middle class to upper middle class kind of, and even the luxury items are Indian population still feels like a waste of money. If something gets the work done, why spend more on it? Unlike the other developed nations, right?
Firmly rooted in Japan, seeing record sales. Japan was booming. Meanwhile, in the US, companies were kicking and screaming. Between 1980 and 85, the dollar appreciated nearly 50%, putting intense pressure on domestic manufacturing. To address this, the US.
Yeah, there is this always fine balance, right? If your currency is doing well, it's bad for your exports, good for your imports, but it's always bad for the exports. That's what China does well. They just, even if their currency is getting appreciated, they'll just nuke that down, just bring it down to the same amount, because they don't want to lose their manufacturing export what do you call the position in the world right now.
US, France, the UK, West Germany, and Japan met and signed the Plaza Accords. The agreement was simple. The Japanese yen needed to depreciate relative to the US dollar, strengthening the American export economy and weakening the surplus that Japan had. Feeling the pressure from their allies, the Japanese had no choice, and within 3 years, the Japanese yen went from 239 yen per dollar to nearly half at 128 yen per dollar. The rapid appreciation of the yen made Japanese goods way more expensive and reduced export demand, softening the overall economy. This triggered a series of events that would lead to Japan's lost decade. To combat a weakening economy, Japan acted swiftly. They cut interest rates to a record low 2.5%, the lowest in the world at the time, and opened credit markets, making debt more accessible than ever. The impact was immediate. The already booming economy ballooned almost overnight. Citizens and companies dove headfirst into stock and real estate.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Why does government keep giving low interest loans? That would only encourage capitalists, not high wealthy people. I don't know.
Speculation. Land values began to skyrocket as cheap
Yeah,
money
that's what happens, with the land market. They get skyrocketed because all these fucking wealthy people, they come in with their money, even they'll just keep taking the loans, for low interest, just keep on snatching up all the real estate wherever they could. They just start building houses so that they can flip, or they can, yeah, for quick buck. The real estate will skyrocket. It would become impossible for common man to even buy a house. That's what happens. That's what happened with Australia right now, right? During COVID, they just gave like record low interest loans, and every major investment company came in and snatched up all the land and started building the houses, apartments, and they started flooding the real estate with houses, and they just raised the prices, because now that they've got it at low interest rate, they can do. They are the market leader. They can do anything they want. They just raise that real estate prices out uh, to out of reach for common people to buy. Now, if you are a common man and if you want to buy a new house, you can't. You can't buy a land. You can buy a house right now because they already snatched all that up when the interest rates were low, and they just took money from banks and everything, and they snatched up. Yeah, that is what the major disadvantage with the low interest loans. The real estate gets skyrockets and the common man gets hurt.
money fueled speculation. Japanese tax laws only added to the fire, as ordinary citizens avoided capital gains taxes while the wealthy sidestepped inheritance taxes, making real estate the perfect investment. But not just real estate, land in particular. No one cared about the buildings, no one cared about the rental income, all they wanted was the land. The banking system was also out of control, with almost no checks and balances. Encouraged by the government to lend endlessly, banks handed out loans with little concern for credit quality, using investments as collateral, investments that were greatly overinflated. And even as asset prices ballooned, the Bank of Japan hesitated to raise rates, fearing a market cool down. But
Yeah, why the fuck do they do that? They know what's happening and they just, yeah.
But by May 1989, there was no choice. Rates climbed from 2.5% to 3.25%, eventually
Fuck
peaking
is
at
that graph?
6% in August 1990. This sent the market into a shock and panic. But that wasn't all. The Ministry of Finance imposed restrictions on real estate related loans, triggering a rapid collapse in land prices as buyers could no longer seek debt to fuel their speculation. And by the end of 1990, the Nikkei had lost nearly $1 trillion of value, and real estate prices fell by an additional $3 trillion. The sun had set. The lost decades had just begun.
Yeah, who asked you to, pump up the uh, economy with giving low interest loans, and just at the end when you find out that, yeah, it was a bad idea because people started snatching up the land, the real estate, because Japan has very limited land, and they just started restricting the real estate purchasing, and just wondering why the economy has collapsed.
In the aftermath of Japan's 1990 economic crash, the nation faced a once-in-a-generation crisis. What followed were decades of policy missteps, hesitations, and missed opportunities that left Japan mired in stagnation. While other nations recovered from similar crises, Japan's unique set of responses created a system that, by 2024, still struggles with sluggish growth, deflation, and an aging population. Now let's break it down. This timeline maps out 5 key policies that have shaped Japan's economy over the last 3 decades and why it's still stuck in such a terrible spot today.
Yeah, it seems interesting. I just head on to the conclusion, right?
Of Japan is a warning to bloated economies around the world. We're looking at you, Canada, and Australia. The market value of Japanese stocks is at the same level it was 40 years ago. Wages haven't moved, innovation has been limited, and the population continues to decline. There is no single first world country on earth with a greater combination of economic challenges and mistakes than Japan. After decades of remarkable growth leading up to 1989, the government's missteps have paved the way for decades of stagnation and economic fallout. They got drunk on the idea of low interest rates and aggressive lending, devoid of
low interest loans. That's what happens. You just want to. That's what I feel. Why people do take aggressive decisions. You oversteer. That's what happens. You're seeing that you just push to the right and you oversteer to the left. That's what happens, and then you went too far to the left and you just oversteer to the right. Always we have to maintain the balance. Maybe push a little to the left, push a little to the right. You know what I mean. That should always
fundamentals.
Be a balance.
They believed that unproductive land was the greatest investment anyone could make, maintaining low taxes on property while increasing taxes on everything else. They thought the government could window shop its way to allocating capital efficiently instead of encouraging R&D investment by ambitious entrepreneurs. They refused to let their businesses.
Yeah, that's what every country needs to do. They need to invest in high quality, manufacturing, not just any manufacturing, high quality manufacturing, which is hard for other countries to replicate, They have to invest in R&D. That's why US is so fucking unstoppable right now with all the technology companies staying there. And India is losing it. India has a bright mind, like so many bright minds, and they are leaving our country to work for the US corporates, helping them build new technologies, helping boosting their economy instead of boosting ours. Yeah, and you know what the tax system is right now in 2024 in India. It's a fucking joke. Tax on a tax on a tax. Fucking joke. To think that common middlemen, like the salaried employees, are paying more tax than the corporate businesses. It's unbelievable.
Fail and penalize the citizens of Japan instead to prop up the ruling class, whose businesses dominate the Japanese landscape. And finally, they forgot that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Put simply,
he just sneakily kept that quote, sneaked that quote into the Far Cry 3 quote, doing the same in the definition of insanity. If you didn't understand what I mean, if you didn't get it, just search on YouTube, definition of insanity, Far Cry 3. It's a chef kiss of action, in a video game cutscenes. Just go and watch it right now.
Simply, Debt is not free. Land is not a real investment. The government is not omniscient. Innovation is the foundation of growth. Old businesses need to fail, and Japan needs to wake up. Open your window and let the sun rise. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to 2 and 20 for more on economics and politics.
Yeah, man, great video by 220. It's just very informative. That's what I like about YouTube. You know, there are so many talented individuals who just dive deep into what appears to be a certain niche topic to us, but they just dive deep. And, yeah, it's pretty informative actually. I didn't go through all of this, but then even with that introduction, the conclusion, I still got to understand what's happening here. Yeah, great video, man. So let's just leave this at this. So bye.